Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 28th audio chat on the Q News Patriot Rumble series. I am the Q News Patriot, coming to you with elections whistleblower and a fervent citizen volunteer for We the People, Ms. Michele Swinick. To give you an idea of the type of conversation and the type of flavor of discussion we're going to have today, Ms. Swinick does all of her shows standing up because she believes that when she comes on air and asks We the People to move into action and take back control of our precincts, our local communities, and especially our electoral process, understanding how that is supposed to work and what manipulations have occurred to force it into a status of not working. She's not able to do that in good conscience if she herself is seated in a chair. And so we're going to have, I think, a very personable, very, very one-on-one conversation about what we the people need to be aware of as we move into 2024 and the type of playbook that is being laid out bare in front of all of the world to see, and with lethal and I think a very hardcore effectiveness on the American people. Ms. Swinick, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, SG, now that was an intro. I'm going to have to actually, can you do my outgoing voicemail message too? With that voice. Is that possible? Can we work that out? Yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, so one of the things that really caught my attention whenever we were discussing, the basis for our show today is this idea of precinct ballot reports. And then you started getting into how the levels of controlled opposition have vested themselves out over the last 3 to 5 years, and how we, the people, are becoming more aware of these things. But there's still a gap. There's still a chasm between awareness and movement, awareness and action in a significant way. We're starting to see that gap closed with things like the border convoy, the activities being undertaken by multiple thousands of Americans on that issue. But we're here to talk about that same level of activity on the most important issue, which is our electoral and our elections process, how we choose in a free society those who will represent our will in a concentrated form at a higher, what we would call a higher, or a public servant, maybe is a better way to put it, position of influence and power. So what have you found out? How did you get into this fight, first off? And then what have you found out in your journeys along in the way?
Journey, that's a great way to describe it, because I've been working on the adjective to describe whatever this cluster is that I involved myself with. But what had happened was, I'm a precinct committeeman, I'm a state committeeman, I'm very active, grassroots, real grassroots. Okay, there's a difference between fake grassroots and real grassroots here in Arizona and all over the country, and you're starting to see that now. And very and and after the primaries and what we saw happen here in Arizona, and I have a show on Brighteon TV Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I would have candidates on my show, is bringing back more into the political realm, and a lot of the candidates that we were supporting didn't win the results. There's no way they did not win the vote. There's no way with the support that they had, because I'm on the ground. I've got my hands dirty, and I'm sweating to the oldies out here, and our candidates aren't winning. So I was like, okay, something's up here, but in a different way. So anyway, to make a long story short, I contacted, because I see all these people saying, hey, you need to be a poll watcher and a poll worker, and Ronna McDaniel and Cleta Mitchell, the faces of election integrity, which is the big lie. No such thing as election integrity, everybody. So please stop using that phrase. And so I contacted, and I said, how do I become one? What do I do in the county? And next thing you know, I'm a judge at the election center here in the Islamic Election Center here in Scottsdale. And then I almost got thrown out 3 times. The supervisor threatened to terminate me. I don't think he meant employment. And then when I came home at 9 o'clock, I went on Brighteon, because they were doing a election news desk, and I told them what I saw and what happened. And then I went on another show, AGN, and I told them what I saw and what happened. And I started investigating the election, because I know no one else would. So with that being said, now we have been, for the past 30 days, exposing the fraud and corruption, maladministration, pick an adjective, you name it, of what really happened November 8th, 2022 here in Maricorruption County. And what it has led to is realizing that this is a system, the election system operation. That's what it is. And it is not just the machines. The machines are the most important, because there's 3 sets of machines, not just the tabulators there. You have the eSite poll books where you check in. That thing is an intelligence gathering device. And then you have people, you have human beings, and you're going to, the information that we've shared, we're putting all the public documents out. Again, this is all public information. Okay, public documents. Anybody in the country could have requested these. They're called precinct ballot reports. And then I actually went down to the tabulation center to take pictures of parts of the tape, the tally tapes that come out of the machines that give you information about the votes. It gives you information about the races. It gives you information about the machines. And the documents tell the story without you even having to know anything about elections. And that is where I got so PO'd when I'm looking at this first set of documents called precinct ballot reports, which are the audit forms that we use at night. And audit's a fancy word. It just means you're taking information like a number on a screen and you're writing it on a piece of paper. But they make everything so comprehensive and complex, and it's an expert that you need. No. Like somebody in like people in like a bunch of first graders can handle this, right? Because it's that simple. They would need to make it complicated because they have to confuse you. And I'll come up for air and we can go from there. But that's the basis of that. That's the basis of that.
So these precinct ballot reports, you said that these tally reports directly emitted from the machines themselves, and correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding here, did not match up with broader reporting on the ground in that area. Is that true?
Yeah, the way you're describing it is a little off. So the precinct ballot report is just a sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, and this is the report that the poll workers are supposed to complete the night of the election. We're called the election board. So there's information that we're supposed to put onto these documents to of certain data points of the election, like how many ballots were actually cast through the voting machine. You put that, see the number on the screen, you write that down. The security seals. So you would write down the name, the number of the security seal that is attached to the bubble pack, which contains the tally receipts and the memory cards that are having all the information that is in the actual tabulators, which are the machines, or the boxes that are sealed that are supposed to have these tie wraps that have a number on them. So that's your chain of custody protection. So that's the precinct ballot report. Now, there's 223 vote centers. So some of these precinct ballot reports match the actual information that came from the machines, which the machines print out a tape. Okay, so you have a tape. And it's similar to the tape that came out of the old-fashioned adding machines. Exact same thing. It's on a roll, and it's just supposed to be one continuous tape. Now, a lot of these tapes, portions are missing. They're ripped. They're sabotaged. They're doctored. Some have no tapes at all that are supposed to be there for the public to view. So you have a lot of manipulation of information. Now, keep in mind, both of those documents, they're election records. These are records of the election that have been tampered with. And we can prove to you by when you read these and you see them that there is a pattern of and a conspiracy, a fraud being taken. And I don't use the word loosely. I could prove the fraud. Okay. And you could see it in the document. You could see it by them violating statutes, which is law. They broke the law. We've gotten to the point where we're writing down all the laws that were broken and we're providing that to the American people so they can see that it's just, I think I'm at like 6 or 7, just straight statutes that because those things were not done, very simple things, they are, and I'll give you an example. ARS 16-564. This statute basically says that all ballots need to be counted before they leave the election centers. They're called voting centers here. That did not happen at all 223 voting centers. So that is a fraud prevention measure. And it is done because you need to know how many ballots are leaving the building. Because if you don't know how many ballots are leaving the building, you don't know how many ballots are supposed to show up at the next building. Okay, this is common sense. You don't need to know anything about elections. So that is, like I said, that is a non-technical statute. It's a fraud prevention measure. That alone, because that was violated in the entire county, was enough to set aside the entire election, every single race, and have it redone if that was brought into a court of law as soon as November 9th. The question you have to ask is, why did that not happen? Why has that never been brought up in a court case? That's just one of many. 16602, you're supposed to make, you're required, I, as a judge, which I was never brought this up, none of this was ever brought up in our trainings, okay? And you have to ask why. Why aren't we, why wasn't that, that's not even part of the process on that precinct ballot report or in our manuals to count the ballots, not tabulate, not say how many Carrie Lake had or how many Hamadeh had. No, the physical pieces of paper. And the poll list, I, as a judge, is required by me or the other judge. There's two of us. The judge is supposed to compile and prepare a poll list of everybody that actually checked in. So you have a number of people that checked in to vote. And one would think, okay, I'm a kindergartner and I have 7 marbles in one hand and I have 8 marbles in another hand, and there should be 15 marbles. So if you don't know how many ballots have been cast, and you don't know how many ballots or people have checked in, how are you supposed to know if they match? Again, you don't need to know anything about elections to realize something stinks, guys. Because if that's a statute that requires me to actually do that, or an election worker to prepare a list so you could know how many people checked in, that's a law that was violated. Again, it's similar to the other one. If that law, somebody brought that into a court case, the 9th of November, the entire election would have been set aside, because you cannot trust the results of the election. You cannot certify if you have no proof of how many people checked in. If you have no idea how many ballots were actually cast at that voting center, all 223 of them. So now we are just supposed to take the word of the county for how many they said actually checked in, which is one of their reconciliation. It's called Exhibit 11, which is we're sharing all that information and posting all this stuff on Twitter so you can see it, so you can download it, so you can understand it. So we're supposed to take their word for it. And now the beauty of this is we're actually running the numbers and we're cross-referencing them, and they're not matching. Okay, they're not matching. So I'll give you an example, and I'll come up for air. I tend to not come up for air. I don't even have one of those snorkels on. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Buckeye. This is one of the real, this is a fun one. So this one is where we can actually give you a perfect example of fraud. Okay. But keep in mind, fraud is not following the law. So the fact that they didn't count the ballots, which is a violation of ARS 16-564, that means the county committed fraud. They didn't have the poll workers come up with a list, so you have no idea how many people actually checked in. Since that was not done, that is fraud. Okay, so they've already committed fraud right then and there. And we haven't even, the ballots haven't even left the building. We're at like 9:05 at night because none of that happens. Okay, yeah, we're not even the next day yet. And they've already created an election that you cannot certify, validate, or cross-reference or audit, because they've already broke 2 major laws. And the ballots haven't even left the building. Okay, that's what, see, this is so simple. We don't need to prove that there was a satellite that actually took a tabulator and it flipped it in the back, and no one can prove it, but we know it happened. Time out, guys. Simple. Law broken. End of story. Drop the mic. Game over. But that's just one category of things that we're proving to you, showing you the evidence, showing you the county's own records. These are all public documents. These are all generated by the county. And this is their own records of the election. Well, you can't fudge it. It is fact. So it's a yes or no answer. It's a very black and white. There's no gray here this time. So this example of Buckeye. So Buckeye, because I have copies of the actual tally receipts, which shows the amount of votes that were cast on each machine, and I have the audit files, which has a record of every single action taken by that tabulator from the time it turned on to the time it turned off. That's a whole nother story. So you can cross-reference it. So those are the 2 official records, right? Those are the records of the election. And they matched up on this one, which is good, because sometimes they don't match. So sometimes when somebody wrote something on the screen, it didn't match the results in the computer. But that's a whole nother topic, which is called, it's an anomaly. It's a known anomaly that Dominion and the EAC did an investigation called the Williamson County Anomaly. So we talk about that too. So you guys are reminded of that, which nobody seemed to want to talk about here on November 8th, even though it was a major investigation by Dominion, which they actually kind of did a recall and told you how to fix it. But Maricopa County ignored their advice on how to notice it, which you had to count the ballots. Does that make sense? Because if the machine's telling you it had 300 ballots, and it actually really only had 100 ballots on the tape that I have the photo of, and the audit files say 100, that's the known issue. So now it says 300 on the front, And the way to notice this, the company, Dominion, said the way that you catch this known issue, it's called an anomaly. It's more like a feature, but we won't go down that road. So the way you catch it is you have to count the ballots. You have to make sure that the number on the screen, on the tabulator, matches the ballots on the inside. And if it doesn't, then you got an issue, because you got to make sure which one it is. So we don't count the ballots in Arizona. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, because then you would have found this. And we found it in multiple centers. So yes, it does exist here in Arizona, and we can prove it to you by the documents we have. But I want to go back to this other center. So there's 688 ballots that are votes that were cast according to what the human being wrote down that night that they saw on the screen. The tally receipts, which comes out of the machines on that piece of paper, that long strip like the adding machine, and the audit report, this audit files, they all have the same, 688. But the problem is, and then there was 10 misreads. Remember those misreads, those ballots that didn't go through the machines? And if we have a reason for that too, we'll get into that, not in this show, but in the future. And you put in that magical door to, we don't know yet where, because we've already found that there's 674 of those. We don't know where they are, because they don't match up with the numbers that were provided by the county based on the facts of their own records. See, we're using their own records against them, and they don't match. You can't have that. That doesn't even make sense. So here's the document from the county that says, here's how many of their votes were that were at the center. And then here's what they said when they got magically to their review. They have to be the same. They are not. Okay. So what's interesting about this one is there were 688 votes cast on at that center, plus the 10 misreads, because they got counted. And that's a whole nother conspiracy. And now I can't say conspiracy because it's true. So a whole nother planned, like you said, journey. The ballots have a journey here. That's what they go on. The ballots here go on a journey. They go on a journey straight to ACTEC, where all your freedoms go to die. That's where your freedom goes to die, the Maricopa County Tabulation Center. So that number was 688 votes, plus the 10 is 689 or 698. The county on their reconciliation report said 661. So there's 37 ballots that poof, they decided not to count. Okay, so when you have that as a discrepancy within their own documents, that's called fraud. So either the county has committed fraud by telling you there was only 661 votes, because we know there was at least 698, and I have all of their documents to support it. Or Dominion's machines, which match all of the three data points all match each other. They committed fraud, and that machine and all those three data points don't match. So one of the two is fraud. Black and white. That's just one example. I think you kind of know what the answer could be. And it's either one. You can pick one. I don't care if it's fraud from the machines. I don't care if it's fraud from the county. Both are fraud. The election should have never been certified. And now we've got even more and more information. It's like the categories to show everybody on what transpired is mind-blowing. So again, on these precinct ballot reports, you have 8 sites that have the bottom completely blank. And on the bottom portion of it, it's where you write the serial numbers, which is the security for not only the tapes that I was talking about, the memory cards, which has all the information. The only information that in a digital capacity is the memory card. It's like a stick, one of those things you stick in the computer. And then all the different boxes that are supposed to be sealed, that have ballots in it, that have all the day of ballots, the early ballots, the provisional ballots, all the different stuff that's used at the voting centers. They're all sealed and with like a tie wrap that has a security number. In 8 of the centers, all of those on those precinct ballot reports have not been completed. They're totally blank. So you have absolutely no chain of custody at 8 voting centers, which is thousands of votes. Okay, thousands of votes. So another example, but that's just one thing. Okay, so right then and there, you have thousands of votes that you don't know how many are going from one place to another. You can slip in whatever you want, and none of the numbers are matching up. So you have 87 of these precinct ballot reports that have partial information. Okay, partial. And it is required by law to have all the information completed. This is a record of the election.
Did you say 87 out of 223 total?
Yeah, have partial or partially blank.
That's a third.
Okay, I'll make it even worse. So 95 of them failed to document every single piece of information that's required. Okay, 95. That's just the precinct ballot report. Now, the job of the election workers is to complete this, because this is the audit report at the night of that we have to, and it's simple it's simple stuff that you complete. You write, and you saw, I think I sent you guys a copy. There's not a lot of line items to complete. All you're doing is looking at the tag that's on, say, the box, and you write the number down. How many ballots are on the tabulator screen? So there's 2 tabulators. So you write down those 2 numbers. How many are on the accessible device, which is the one is the accessible, like quote unquote, the handicap one, right? That's what that they used to call it. So how many votes were on that? You look at the screen, you write it down. How many ballots were in the misread bin? You're supposed to count those. How many were spoil ballots? You're supposed to count those. That's it. And then you sign it. I signed this document, except what's interesting is they blacked out the signatures when they sent them to me. But they didn't black out signatures of anything else that they had sent me. And and it's not required by law for me to black out the signatures that are on the tally receipts, because on these tally receipts, there's these long tapes that as soon as the machine gets turned on, the voting center is opened. It is supposed to be one continuous tape. That's not what happened. Okay. Sometimes there's 2 tapes. Sometimes there's 3 tapes. Sometimes there's 4 tapes. Sometimes there's no tapes. Sometimes there's 1 tape. And like I said, many tapes, important portions are missing. So of those 223 centers, there's supposed to be 2. Back out the receipts. So the poll workers have to sign it in 2 separate places to certify certain things about the election. And a lot of the times they're blank. Okay. That's a violation of the law. And what was interesting is because the law it says, because it's an election record, the people that sign those, because they work for the county at the time. I worked for the county for a day. I got $14 and some odd cents an hour. And those signatures can be made public because it's not protected under law. Whenever we're showing these, we black them out just because we're being nice. We don't have to. But what's interesting is the county blacked out the signatures on the precinct ballot report. So
why would they do that?
I mean, you can speculate, but then I might be able to match it with what is on the tapes, right? Indeed. Okay. So I'm just saying that I don't know. I don't know. And too bad it's not video. I can wink. I don't know. I'm just saying these are just speculation. I'm just giving you guys facts. And on some of this stuff, you need to make your own conclusions, which are obviously right in front of your face. But the other stuff, you don't need to make conclusions because the conclusions are right there on the documentation. I was just bringing it up because I just want you to understand that why would you prohibit that information from being seen? But that's so minor in the big spectrum of all the stuff that we have. It's like there's so much stuff that is really, really bad and stuff that has actually violated the law, but it's so minuscule compared to the other stuff that is so much bigger that we've actually had to prioritize the fraud and the corruption and the maladministration to get you guys to focus on the big stuff, even though the little stuff was enough to actually set aside the election, because that's how bad it is. And every time I go into the files and we look around, we'll notice something new, which is worse than the last one, which we thought was the worst thing we've ever seen. So we're not finished with the election investigation, because we've probably shown everybody about 2% of what we have. And that is just the beginning. But again, a portion of that 2% is enough to have actually had this set aside. The thing that everybody needs to focus on is why has this information never come out? Why was it in the trials? Why is it that they had said there was 446 tabulators, right? There's supposed to be 2 at each. So 2 times 223. One was actually replaced. There's one center that has one. So they go 446, this magical number. Scott Jarrett, who was or is the elections director, testified under oath in the trial that there was 446 tabulators. He bragged about chain of custody. I just explained to you that you have you have chain of custody issues on how many centers? 87, and then hardcore 8. Okay, 8. No chain of custody. Poof, nobody knows, right? So he testified under oath 446 tabulators. Nobody questioned it. Nobody cross-examined him about that. I have found an additional 28 tabulators that nobody seems to want to discuss. And I can prove it because I have the serial numbers. The serial numbers are on those tapes. So if for some reason those tapes were not printed out, because there are many times where somebody went into the machine, turned off the print function. So when they brought in a tabulator, which you can do, but it has a process that needs to be done. That process was not done on most of these centers because they don't want you to know that they brought in another tabulator and switched them out. But that's not, I don't want you to focus on the switching out. I want you to focus on the fact that nobody has documented that these tabulators were put in to the election. Some had 2, some had 3, some had 4, some had 5. So you have the elections director saying that's 446 tabulators. You have the legal teams of Carrie Lake and Abe Hamadeh continuing to publish information in the courts, in the tweets and interviews that literally conceals the widespread replacement of these Dominion machines at these centers, where I can document an additional 28, and I'm not finished. I guarantee you I'm going to probably find a few more. So right then and there, the man committed perjury. But yet they want you, for 14 months, you've all been told, we've been bamboozled and brainwashed that elections, the problem was the printers. It's all the printers. They had a report done, all that they brought all their court case stuff about the printers, the 19 to 20 inch, all that's a lie. All of that has been a lie, a distraction to deceive you. So you don't focus on what the real problem is, the tabulators, the machines, and now you're seeing it. And it's funny because we're getting a little pushback from both of those teams, and we're showing what really happened with the elections. And we're showing that Abe Hamadeh won, and we've given them all the information, made it public to show them what they need to file in court for him to take his rightful seat, because he did win. We proved it with one voting center, not to mention the thousands of ballots that we can show that are missing. And not to mention the 674 ballots that door number 3 that we just did an audit on door number 3 that are missing. He only lost by, quote, lost the results by 280. We've made up more than that. Not to include the 8, or I think it's 7 vote centers right now that had an election on Monday or Wednesday, or Monday through Tuesday, or Tuesday through Wednesday, or Monday through Wednesday. I have a tabulator that was on for 38 hours. Okay, so they started it Monday, ran votes through it on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. The machine was on for 38 hours straight taking votes. You can't have that. Okay, and somebody said, oh, well, maybe it was an error with the count, with the date. What? No, you could see where they went in the machine and they actually changed the date. They changed the time. They didn't change the date. But the irony is the tabulator sitting next to it, that was a normal Tuesday election. So it doesn't matter what the testimony of the person said. Well, I was there all day Tuesday. It doesn't care. I don't care if the videotape shows, oh, we were standing there Tuesday. It matters what the machine said. Again, those are the election records. So you have thousands of votes that went through those 7 centers that are illegal. Okay, illegal because you cannot have elections other than the 13 hours that are designated on that 8th of November of 2022 from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Any other votes that go through, obviously you can go later until the line is closed so that there's a cushion there, right? But you have to be in line prior to the cutoff at 7 p.m. But and because of the audit mark feature on these ballots, you can't determine which ballot was run through at what time. So you don't know if the ballot that ran through on Monday was actually for which candidate, for which proposition, for whatever. So right then and there, those 7 centers, and I just found a center last week. So because we had 6 before, and then I saw, oh, look, there's another one, because the tape that they had didn't match the audit files. So the audit files show that the machine got turned on the day before. Tape didn't say that. So they turned on the machine, and then they just didn't print out the report. They printed out the report when they wanted to print the report out. So there's a lot of that manipulation, and you could see it. It's literally, it just sings. It's like a bird singing. Tweet, 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 tweet. Tells you everything you need to see. So all those ballots that were cast at those 7 centers are completely illegal. And nobody's attorneys filed this in the courts with all those court cases and all those millions of dollars and all that hopium that was stirred up. And then all that noise that the judges are bad, the courts are corrupt, which yes, they are. But when you bring in piles of dog poop into the trial, then what is the judge supposed to do? And then when you don't cross-examine people, you don't bring them on the stand, you don't ask them these questions, you don't bring poll workers in who wrote on the precinct ballot report, too many told not to count. So now they are being instructed to not count the misread ballots, which are required by the auditing process of the law, the Elections Procedures Manual. They're being told not to count, but then all of a sudden, a magical number appears on the line. And we call it the red baron because it's in red and it's always circled and it's on multiple centers, where a number just shows up on the precinct ballot report. Wait, what? So it says here, told not to count, which is showing you that the county is now in a conspiracy because it's on multiple, there's a pattern. There's patterns here of things where you have them, they're creating the chaos. The county's doing it. The poll worker just said, told not to count. Who does that? No, they're being told, don't count these. Don't count these. And on numerous ballots, there's 10 where they wrote black bag. It says number of misread ballots from door number 3. And they wrote, see black bag. Oops, forgot this. 1/3 black bag. Too many, told not to count. We didn't ask you where the misread ballots were. We asked you how many it was. That's required. So they're being told not to do their job. Okay, do you see how deep this is? This is layers. And once you guys see the conditions of the tapes and what they've done to these things, I mean, you just go, what? It's 14 months later. Why are you just hearing it now? That's the question. That is one of the major questions. I'm just some Yahoo. Leo D'Onofrio, the attorney that I'm working with, he's not working in the capacity of attorney. He's doing it because we connected the 17th of November, and we've been at the hip ever since because we saw what was going on. And we work well together. He's extremely brilliant and intelligent. And when we started just looking at this stuff, the story started telling itself. And then the players, oh man, they just love to show up and they never disappoint. They never disappoint. And you just go, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah, and you know, going back to 2024, and I said this to you before we open, and I'm coming up for air in a second. I just get so angry about this. I get so passionate about it because I see what's happening in this country where you still have so many people just, they're worshiping at the altar of the candidates and the politicians and these groups and these PACs and these 501c3s and 4s. They're not the heroes. They're not going to save the day. They are the ones destroying your country because they've not shared any of this information with you because the system works for them. They're telling you, you got to vote harder 2024. That's not a winning strategy. You got to register more voters. None of that matters. We've got to go ahead and clean the voter rolls. Why? Because in Maricopa County, the day after the cutoff, they just put them all back on and do whatever they want. That's been proven. We proved it last year and the year before. We need to chase the ballots. Dumbest idea. Oh, we need a machine that tells you if the tabulators are connected to the internet. It's too late then. You have machines at the next election. The country's over. You cannot recover from the results of 2024. because we're showing you the process, okay? This is without even going into what the fraud prevention measures that are on the machines called predictive counters that have been violated. There's 106 machines that we have had so far that we can show everyone that the fraud prevention measures failed, which means you cannot check the results because the protective counter number is off, which means it's like an odometer. It's supposed to it's like mileage, right? So it's like a mileage that's on there. And if the numbers don't add up, then it's like an alarm's going off. Danger, danger, that there's an issue here. So that's just 106 tabulators, in addition to everything else that I'm sharing with you, which is only a portion of what we've put out of the 2% of what we have. So the 2024 election, they're not gonna steal it. Stealing, corruption, fraud, manipulation, maladministration, malfeasance, that's the fundamentals of your entire election system operation across the country. So it's not that the election's going to get stolen. That's how it works. It is stolen. Your voice, your sacred right to choose your representative was stolen from you a long time ago. And now if you choose to pay attention, you get to see how it all works and what happened here, which a lot of it happened in your state, happened in your county. You just didn't look. You didn't know. Now you know. Now you're going to know and you're going to see everything. So 2024, they've already decided. It's already been determined. Trump lost, and so do the American people. End of story. You cannot beat the information that I'm showing. You cannot beat the system. It is impossible to beat what we are exposing and showing to you because we're showing you how the system operates. You can't beat it. It's impossible because they do whatever they want and there's no accountability. They break the law. They change the numbers. So the numbers work for whatever they need the results to be. And we're showing you all that with their own documents. Why has this never been done before? You're going to have to ask yourself when you know the answer. You don't want to admit it. You're going to have to say it out loud. Everybody that you thought was on your side is not. That's the only conclusion. Because it's all about money and power. Because there's a lot of money in election integrity. There's a lot of money telling you how they're going to fight for you. There's a lot of money in running. There ain't no money in winning. You'd bet it is more fun to run, more fun to grift that money. There's no money in solutions. So if everybody took everything that I'm sharing and we're exposing, and you understand how the system works, and we have a solution to the system. It's easy to fix, but not if everybody doesn't want to fix it. It's really easy. You get rid of the machines. That's the first start. You do the hand counts. You have the paper ballots. You have a check and balance system. How many marbles in one hand? How many marbles in the other hand? If you just followed the law that's already in place, you wouldn't have any of these problems. You'd have honest elections. But then the problem is you would have real people like me running for office. They don't want people like me running for office. They actually probably regret the day that I showed up and they called me back to be an election judge. It was the worst day and then the fact that I didn't stop it. I'm not stopping now. Why? No. Everybody needs to know. So again, the American people have the choice. Do you want to keep on the trajectory of where you're going? Because everything you've done for the past 3 years has not and will not work moving forward. That is a fact. Look at 2020. Everybody voted for Trump. He did not win the results. 2022, across the country, red wave. It happened in the vote, not in the results. 2023, they did it again. This time, it's the abortion. Narrative has to match the results. That's how it works. And they control the results. So they just throw out the narrative. I don't even trust any of the polling people because it's interesting to see that SG, I can count on one hand how many people have contacted me to come on their show. This information's been out. We put out the show that we did. Leo and I came on my show on the 29th of December. And show's 55 minutes. We condensed it down to 28 because everybody has a short attention span like a goldfish, 8 to 9 seconds. So we crammed it into 28 minutes. I put it on the Twitter at 8:49, I believe, New Year's Eve night after we finished editing it. And in 48 hours, I had 450,000 views. I have no idea how it went viral. I believe that was more Holy Spirit driven. And because I had no big influencers pushing it out. I still don't have any big influencers pushing out any of the information that we're sharing. And Vandersteel has stepped up, and the Big Mig has done a little bit. It's just not. I would like to see some consistency. But and I've been on I don't know, a couple hundred show appearances over the past 3 years that I've been doing this. I can count on one hand how many people reach out to me, Michele, I need to cover this.
Incredible.
That should be a concern. That should be a concern. So I want to thank you for allowing me to come on here and ramble like I have. And you're a very, very kind gentleman for doing that and for the work that you're doing. But the American people have an opportunity here to make the choices and make the decision, but it's going to require a little bit of work. You don't have to leave your house though, but we need your help in Arizona, because last Saturday, 2 days ago, we had our AZ GOP annual meeting. It was the most disgusting display of a uniparty unification that I have ever seen, a violation of our own bylaws, and a ramrodding of them steamrolling us over, the true grassroots, and then the people claiming to be grassroots, which they are not. It's the uniparty led by Carrie Lake now, and Wendy Dodgers, and literally everybody that endorsed. Again, Trump is a carve out and all this. Do not put him into the mix of everything I'm saying. That is an anomaly. That is an enigma. Just keep that out. So I don't want to hear feedback. Oh, you don't like Trump. He doesn't count. He's not participating in this part of the discussion. He's in his own category. So you have all these people that signed on to endorse a legitimate rhino establishment uniparty election integrity expert who's done nothing, knows nothing about our elections, who is such a swamp creature here in Arizona that has been in this for 30 years, that gets paid $15,000 a month as a consultant to the Senate on anything elections. Okay, right then and there should disqualify you from anything, because look at our elections. Our elections seem to get worse, but it's the same cast of characters involved. So now that is what's running the Arizona GOP, but everybody's praising her as this is MAGA. This is America first. No. It is literally, you want to talk about, it's not even a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's worse than that, because it's just so blatant in your face that they are now, they're using a new tactic for a new party that was created, where we have people that are hardcore John McCain rhino. I mean, like old school rhinos. Like, I miss those guys, because at least you know who they are. They come out loud, proud, clutching the pearls, khaki pants, you name it. They are hardcore rhino establishment. I miss them, because I'm dealing with people now who are them, except they're now uniparty, and they pretend and grift off of America First and their grassroots and MAGA, and they're not. So that's what we're up against. So there's not enough of us here in Arizona. There's 446 people that were at that state committee meeting that voted for Jim O'Connor, who is literally the only person that should be in office, who is faith, such a strong Christian faith man. He's been in this for a long time. He's also the chair of the Corporations Commission here in Arizona. And he only got 446 votes because they put up yet on another pedestal this Gina Lollobrigida and her Jezebel personality that she is. So we don't have the numbers here in Arizona. We need people across the country to join us in Arizona, because we're fighting our own fake party that everybody has put on pedestals, who literally have done nothing for you, for me, for the state, for the country, but continue to make millions fly everywhere. And nobody's ever in Maricopa, but everybody's at Mar-a-Lago. And there's no results. There's no change. It just gets worse. So if there's no changes, no results, and the people are the same, I always do the emoji face. Guess what the problem is? People. That's your candidates. That's your elected officials. So we need you guys to help us out. All right, I'm up for air. It's Take Your Show Back, sir. And thank you so much. And I can give the Take Action websites and stuff when you're ready.
Well, actually, I think we're going to come to that in just a minute. But I wanted to say I appreciate the discourse, quite frankly, and in some regards, I appreciate the passion, because that's what this entire platform is about. This platform is about reminding, the American people, and we the people around the world, that controlled opposition exists. There are things that we have to consider are at play in our world. They have controlled and manipulated our reality from all sides for a very long time, and they're very expert at putting into play the relatively few numbers of playbooks that they have memorized. And we're coming into a season here in the United States where we have to be eyes peeled wide open. This has to be an involvement of we the people at an action level. It has to be an involvement of we the people at an analysis level. And we need to not be unafraid, I think, as you know, as you've pointed out, to call different spades, right? Whatever those spades may be and wherever they may lead to. I guess one thing I want to ask Ms. Swinick, moving into our closing segment for today, is, you know, you mentioned a 5-point plan to help take back this system, to overpower this very demonic locus of control, really that just is a self-fulfilling corruption hydra all around the world. Can you go into a little bit about that and the things you all are doing and the steps you're taking to enact that?
Yeah, I would love to. It's the People's 5-point pray, plan, take action strategy to take back Arizona, America, and our unconstitutional elections. So what we're encouraging people is you've got to assemble, whether it's digitally or in person. And I'm not saying big crowds, but I need you to stand up, speak up, and show up. It's time to take action, guys. So we're going to turn back, take back, and do a 180. Because everything that you've done, and I mentioned it earlier, has not and will not work moving forward. So you've got to pull a 180 like George Costanza did on Seinfeld when he decided to have opposite day. What did he get? He got the hair, he got the job, he got the girl. So if you want the hair, the job, and the girl, because you don't have a job or the hair or the girl, and you want to actually take back your country and your elections, you have to stop doing the time wasting and energy wasting and money wasting efforts that have been indoctrinated into you because you think that's what works. It doesn't, it hasn't, and it will not. And now that you're going to see the facts. So the 5-point plan is pretty simple. It's hardcore though. It is your new reality and you could choose to accept it. But if not, you already know what's going to happen. Your guy's not going to get in there because your guy's not even on your team because your vote doesn't matter. And I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying take the steps now to go ahead and take the system back, because otherwise they have control over it 100%. So there's 5 steps. 1, money. You're going to have to cut off giving money to candidates, groups, PACs, 501c3s, 501c4s, all of the above, anybody that's ever said the word election integrity. And for those of you who gave money over the past 3 years, you call them up and you say, I got sold a bad bill of goods. You didn't do your job. I need my money back. You watch how fast everything changes if enough people actually did that one step, because that's all they care about is the money. And if you give them, how do you enable an alcoholic? You hand them a bottle of booze. You take away the booze. What happens to the alcoholic? He can't drink anymore. Same thing with the candidates. So number 2, you're going to hold them accountable. The legislators, the administrators, anybody that works for the government, anybody that's running for office, anybody in these groups. So again, the ones that I mentioned before, you need to email them, you need to text them, you need to call them, you need to call them out on social media, you need to unfollow them because that's their power. Oh, well, I've got 1 million followers. Well, what happened if they woke up the next day and they had 4? They had 4 people. Oh, guess who's in charge? We the people, right? These people work for us. They are our servants. I have a board behind me. It gives you the hierarchy of of how the system works. It says God, people, laws, government, corporations. God is first. And then it is the people and all the rest of the stuff that has to do with your governments below that. But we have put these people, they were celebritized. We have worshiped these people, these candidates, these politicians, and put them on pedestals, but they actually work for us. They are our servants. They don't act like it. You must address me as senator. No, you're lucky I'm gonna call you by your first name and not call you POS or SOB. Is that what you are? You're paying their salaries. They've done nothing for you. They've done everything to destroy you and your country, because they could have done, any one of them could have done what I've done. Okay, my costs out of pocket to do all this, yes, I've sacrificed 14 months of my life. And I continue to sacrifices. That's why I look like I got run over by a truck and I've gained 25 pounds because nobody else did their job, but they're all making millions of dollars. The cost to acquire this information, $0. Public documents, $0. You tell me, why didn't anybody else do this? They don't want to, okay? So you got to hold these people accountable. And you got to do it every day. If they're going to a meeting, they have a speaking event, you go there and you ask them the questions and you hold their feet to the fire and you give them our information. Say, why aren't you doing anything with this? What is this? What is this? Is this how our election system works? You have to get loud. It's all about volume. We need people, mass amounts. It would be great to have millions. I'd be happy with a couple thousand at this point. Gideon's army only had 300. And I don't even have, I cannot name 300 people that I can actually say that I can rely on here to help push this out in Arizona. And I'm literally boots on the ground. Okay. So I need people from out of the country or out of the state to do it and join us. Pile on. It's fun. You get to go after your politicians and yell at them. You can do it digitally, right? Try not to curse. I know it's very hard. But you got to hold these guys accountable. If you have public meetings, if you have school board meetings, you go to your board of supervisors meetings, you go to the other meetings that they attend, and you give your 2 to 3 minute speech. But if there was 10 of us down there, and I'm a demon, which all these people are demons, because you cannot do these things to the American people and sleep at night like a normal human being, because you can't. No, you can't. So I would acknowledge, but there's only 10 of you here. I'm not gonna listen to you. And that's how they treat us at the Board of Supervisors meeting here in Maricorruption County, who run our elections, by the way. Okay, there's 5 demons on that dais every single 2 weeks. So 10 people come, I'm not gonna listen. I'm a demon. I don't have to. 100 people? It's kind of a heavy turnout today, Joyce. What do you think? There's 1,000 people. There's beyond standing room only. There's 10,000 people lined up to come in the meeting. And I got 100,000 emails in the past 48 hours. And the phones are out of control. And I lost all my followers. That makes an impact. Okay. That's what I'm saying. We, the people, Article 2, Section 2 of the Arizona Constitution, all political powers inherent in the people. Look up your own. I guarantee you it says something similar. All right, number 3, you're going to ban the voting machines. You're going to take back your unconstitutional elections. On our website, we actually have all the information and the campaign to do. It's a one-click email campaign. I'm going to update it because I need it really tight. And I want to be a little bit more forceful. But again, it's something that we made it so easily, so digitally, but you could do this on your own. On the contact page, I call it the AZ Turds, the turd contact. And it gives you their emails, it gives you their phone numbers, and it gives you their Facebook and their Twitter accounts, so you can start following them. But we're doing it too. So if you just jump in the swarm of the Twitter people here in Arizona and the ones that are nationwide that are helping us hold them accountable, you kind of just jump on the trains and you could share, you can do it yourself, but it requires just volume, right? And it's fun. It's actually fun. And then number 4, citizen grand juries. That is a way for the citizens to hold the government and hold a government out oversight. It can actually be done. It takes 1/2 of 1% to gather to actually do this. It's a little bit longer term strategy depending on your county, but like here in Cochise County, just south of us, you only need 628 people. But you would think, God, isn't there 628 pissed off people? I can't get 628 people to assemble. Okay, so that's the problem. Arizona, we don't assemble. We complain, but we don't take the next steps. Again, that's why I'm asking for the country to come join us. And number 5, it was the legislators to appoint the electors for president and vice president, which they have the power to do that. Now, a lot of people are saying, no, you can't have your electors appointed, your presidential electors appointed by the state legislators. That's actually their job description. The Constitution gives them that power. So to put an icing on the cake, there are 308 electoral votes right now that are held by Republican-held majority states. So if the actual legislators had the Canucks, and I say instead of huevos, I use Canucks from the truckers, right? The Canadian truckers. I think you understand. I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. So if your state legislators, it's administrate turds and legislate turds, I call them the turds for short. If they had the Canucks to follow the Constitution, they could all meet. They don't even have to be in session. They basically draft a document. They are able to appoint the electors for the Republican candidate for the president of the United States today. They can do that today. There's 308 on the table. So by the end of the day, if everybody did that, then the president of the United States would have already been decided, because the elector's job, or the state legislator's job, is to appoint the electors. And they used to do that before they had the popular vote, which now doesn't make sense why they created the popular vote as opposed to what the founding fathers created. So they can control the results. because this used to be the job of the electors. You had voted for an elector based on their party so that they would appoint the correct elector so that your guy would become the president. You used to not be involved in that. You kind of technically aren't, but they are supposed to go with the popular vote. The popular vote was implemented to control the system, okay? Because they can control the system based on bodies, right? Look what they're doing now. It has nothing to do with illegal aliens. They don't need any more people here. Every illegal alien can vote for Trump. He'd still lose. That's not how this works. Again, look at all the documents and the information we're showing you. You cannot beat the system. So if they wanted to do that, they could actually go ahead and take those steps. Now, we have approached the legislators here in Arizona, which is a majority held Republican. And they have all said, no, we cannot do that. And we will not do that. This is what we're dealing with. This is what you're all dealing with. You just need to say, you know what, I believe what she's saying because it's all backed up. None of these people are on your side. They want your money. They want your vote. They know that they don't even need your vote, but it goes well with money. It's like biscuits and tea. You need both. The vote's just, oh, I need your vote. No, not really. You just need the money. So that's your 5-point plan. You can go to savemyfreedom.us, savemyfreedom.us. That's our Substack. There's also, all of the websites are listed. There's headers on the top. So I made it look like it's a website, and all the different websites we have are there. If you go on the left, it says the 5-point plan. Click on that. It takes you over to the other website, banning the machines. It's all connected. I'm going to try to make it as clean as I can. It's just that I have no budget. So I have to do what I can with free websites, and I have to do what I can when I have 5 minutes to take away from doing the actual research, which I think is important for you guys to understand. Now, you see, look at the last time that I had time to put one of these things up. Now, I'm going to do this today. And all the information that we've been releasing is on Twitter. But if you see here what the 5-point plan and ban the voting machines, you want to watch our show live on demand, it takes you over to Rumble. This was the episode that we did with Leo D'Onofrio that started everything on the 29th of December. So it kind of sounds like this is all a lot. It's actually not, guys. It's really, really simple. And I'm going to do a post today on the Substack, right? So when you subscribe to Substack, you'll then get the posts, and I'm going to do them more often, but I'm going to do one real quick. So you have the links to that video, the links to the other website, the links to the Rumble. So you have that, because all of the Twitter spaces. So we're doing Twitter spaces to explain things. We're posting all the documents on Leo and Mai's Twitter space or Twitter pages, and you can download it. These are all public documents. And then I'm putting them into Substack. So I'm going to have all that there so that you guys can see all this. And we're going to go through every single voting center so you can see. And from there, you're going to see all the different categories of this. Plus then, you know, somebody goes, Michelle, this is horrible. You always talk about all this stuff and the corruption, the fraud. I said, yes, but I always give you a solution. And it requires the people putting in, it would be nice, 5 minutes a day, 15 minutes, so you don't live in a 15-minute city. But I give you the solutions and I explain it all. So I'm going to tell you the facts, and it's going to hurt because it's the opposite of everything you've been indoctrinated and brainwashed. And yes, you've been betrayed. You've been betrayed by everybody who you had confidence in, because there is not one person in office or a candidate that you can trust, regardless of what they tell you. Because if I'm showing you how the system operates, and I'm sick to my stomach when I first started looking at it, and none of them are talking about it. And none of them did this, even the ones that are supposed to have done this as their job description. Why? They don't want it to change because it works for them. It works for them because they're already in, or because they keep running and make millions of dollars. There's no other conclusion. And if they would love to come on and debate me, that's great. And we've given this information to Carrie and Abe so they could take it and they can take their rightful seats that they have earned. They have not done that. They have not shared this information because they're making millions running away from their rightful positions that they've already earned because they don't want them. They don't want them. This gives them both of their seats. They do not want them because there's more money in running for Senate and Congress. I didn't sign up for that. And there's a lot of people in Arizona that sign up for that. And there's a lot of people across the country that's happening too with their people. Keep running for office. There's people that run every 2 years for office. Because why? In a federal capacity, if you're running for federal office, I don't know about the state, but I know for federal, you can take a salary for whatever that federal office is. So you mean, you riddle me this. So you get a donation of $181,000. You don't think that the first $180,000 for somebody who's running for Senate doesn't go back in their pocket as their salary? Come on. You do it, because that's how it works. So you got to stop supporting these people, not supporting them in campaigns and their money. You cut them off. And if there's enough of us that are doing it and you're putting out our information about how the system works and what's happening in Arizona, and we hold their feet to the fire, and we got the country behind us doing it, it just becomes a conversation of the country, the narrative of the nation, they'll crumble. They'll fold like a cheap suit. They will fold like a cheap suit because they started doing it this weekend here in Arizona. We're putting the pressure on them because all of them, because Carrie Lake and Wendy Dodgers, her name's Wendy Rogers. I call her Dodgers because she dodges the truth and she dodges questions. They got booed this week, like when they got on the stage, because they betrayed us, the grassroots, by supporting this person who is the opposite of grassroots to become the new chair of the AZ GOP. So they booed her, and they didn't like that. So then there was just a Twitter explosion on Saturday and Sunday. I was assaulted on the video. You'll see it, where I got bumped by the previous chair who beeline and tried to cut me off the microphone. They didn't want me to talk. I was surveilled all Saturday. I was followed around all Saturday, and people were purposely put in my path to try to either pick a fight with me or start an argument or cause some confusion or catch me off my guard, maybe because they wanted a video or something, because they didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth if I got near a microphone or I was around a group of people, because of all the stuff that we've been exposing, for 14 months for me, but hardcore for the past 30 days. So it was crazy. I turned around like, am I being followed? And I'm there with one of my buddies, and she's like, yeah, we both are. This is not good. And it was the whole day. So they were actually putting people in. You want to talk about a CIA operation? Full on operation. So I know I started talking again. SG, you just got to cut me off, dude. You just got to say, Michelle, no more. No more truth for you, Michelle. Stop telling the truth. I just want people to understand this is literally, it's all an operation. Okay. And the people that you think are on your side, they're not. They're not on your side, because nobody's done what I did. And I'm not putting myself on a pedestal to be praised. This is just what should have been done. This should have been done in 2020. You and I wouldn't be having this conversation if they would have followed the law 16-564. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Arizona wouldn't have been overturned. There's other documents that we could show you that are public that should have set aside the election, that are public documents of the 2020 election in the canvas that would have turned over the election in 2020. Why didn't Trump's attorneys see that? Why didn't they bring up this simple, the simple law that I just quoted about counting the ballots before they leave the building? It makes you wonder, who are these people that we have put on celebrity status? That's my whole, my takeaway from today is, obviously everybody's got to get out their asses and participate, right? And you don't even have to leave your house. You can do everything digitally. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that the system is beyond polluted, and the people that are running it at all different levels, that literally you think are on your side, they are not, because they should have done this. This should have been done in 2020. These groups that are out there saying that they're fighting for you, that all this election integrity, have you ever explained what any of the process is? The most important thing that we have is our vote. The most sacred thing we have is our vote and our system. And nobody has explained to the American people what the system, how the system works on the basic stuff, because they don't want you to know. Well, now you're going to know. So it's literally, it's up to you guys. You have the opportunity right now to take back your country. A, you need to educate yourself. I'm giving you all the information. B, you're going to have to accept the new reality that everything you've been doing for the past 3 years is literally a waste of time, energy, money. I know it hurts. I know it hurts. But it's like the spell, the witchcraft spell, the indoctrination, the brainwashing, the cognitive dissonance that is a cloud over everything that has to do with politicians and elections in our country, from people that we are smart enough to have some common sense is so strong. It's stronger than what they did for the COVID indoctrination brainwashing. It's stronger than that, because the people that didn't take the non-vaccine bioweapon, that don't believe in and believe it was a COVID operation, a political propaganda pandemic, those are the very people that are falling for all the election and candidate worshiping, that are going right back into what we've always done. And these are people that I'm friends with. And they have their sacred right to choose their representatives and their decisions for their communities through propositions and judges and budgets and all that stolen from them, which affects not only your financials, it affects your whole life. Every single decision that happens is affected by the results. Everything in your life is affected by the results of these elections. And these people had this happen to them. They're very active in the community. They're grassroots. They're doing work. They're sweating to the oldies in the summer. It's 140 degrees here. And I can't even tell you how many. And the number is so high. But they all went right back on to which candidate are we going to vote for? Well, which one are we going to have come to our meetings and speak? So which one did you go get signs for so-and-so? And I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. You guys, look what I'm showing you. You can't beat this. You got to go with a different direction. Otherwise, it's over. Again, this is not the most important election. This is the most dangerous election. We will not be able to overcome the results of this election. So you can change them. 5-point plan. Share this information. Digital. You don't even have to get out of bed. You can stay horizontal. Good to go. But do the savemyfreedom.us. Follow us on the Substack and on Twitter. I'm Everything Home T. You'll see that once you're on the Substack, it says social media links, and then follow Leo. He's LCD Law 1 or 01. But we're connected. You could just see him on my thing, and join us in the Twitter battle and hold these guys accountable. Help us do it here in Arizona, because it's the most important county and we have all the goods on them. We just need to get more of us, we the people, because we were shown on Saturday how many people that are in leadership positions, the fake leaders here in Arizona, they could not wait to go ahead and jump onto this flyer that showed the graphic, the meme that said, I endorse Gina Lollobrigida. And one of the deepest, oldest swamp creatures that you can imagine, been doing this for 30 years. And look at our elections. And she's there to consult the elections. They get worse every year. Gee, I wonder who the problem is. There you go, SG.
Ms. Swinick, I have appreciated this conversation quite a bit, and I'll tell you why. The audio chat series and the platform that we've put together here at QMP for everyone out there, and for all the we the people that get a chance to watch and tune in, has always been a spirit-led discussion. Sometimes it's a back and forth, sometimes it's a Q&A, sometimes it's just a very passionate human being that has a deep and wide understanding of what is actually at play, and the sort of wool that's being layered over everyone's consciousness. As you said a moment ago, a cloud of cognitive dissonance. What an incredible description. And sometimes those discussions find themselves to be the most impactful, because it is at the core of our being to look out for one another. It's at the core of our being to understand that we the people really are here for we the people. We're here to glorify God in service and fellowship and wonderment with one another, and to take that away, regardless of which political side or which puppeteer, intangible master we may be serving, is antithetical to the spirit of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that the founding fathers enshrined for us here. And it is sacred, I think, in the United States of America, and an original moment in modern history where we were able to break away from what we believe on this program to be a well-organized worldwide mafia that seeks the destruction of Western civilization. So, folks, thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope this has been an informative and enlightening discussion for you as well. Go to savemyfreedom.us if you'd like to keep up with Ms. Swinick and the work that they're doing out there in Arizona. And for everyone listening, this is SG Anon. I'll be back with each of you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.